guess what it is yet. New motor. It's one of them. Very nice. I'm on the home stretch now. This is the last patch of paint really to come off. Some of it is ever so thickly laid on, and other bits of it are sort of like as easy as anything to come off. But I spent the last few days, a couple of 3 hours a day, scraping at the end of the evening before going for dinner, and I'm right on the home stretch now. And I'll think about what colour to do it on the inside. I like to do it green on the outside, like British Racing green, and maybe cream on the inside, not really white. And I've set up the boat now so it's level. These bulkheads through the boat actually are level at the moment, and I think that's probably the way it's going to sit in the water. And I start to look at the making a floor for it, and then also the thwarts. I've got some bits and pieces of old workbench, actually old science lab benches I think they are, that I was given a few years ago, and I think they'll be the right sort of thing for the inside. I've got a length of redwood, hardwood, which I'll show later, to go for the gunnels, and then I'm going to think about something for the foredeck as well. But I think the main thing to do now is to sand up around the outside, and especially the top edge, and then look at doing the gunnels, steaming, getting them cut to the right width, and then steaming them and put them on, and then the thwarts, and then turning the boat over and looking at the underside, because certainly the keel is rotten, and there's also what are they called, bilge runners on the sides, as well, on the just on the turn, which again would need replacing. I've got some hardwood that should do that as well. A bit of it's not teak, it's something similar to teak, which is quite an oily wood for that. And then doing the leak test. I've got to get a bung for the drain hole and chuck some buckets of water in, or fill it up with a hose pipe and see if it leaks. I think I might do that before I actually paint, because then any repairs will be covered by the paint. But I'm pretty sure from what I've found so far with scraping it, and I've sort of know the inside of the bottom of this boat intimately now, that there's nothing much apart from a little bit in the bilge that looks a little bit dodgy, and that's some peeling away fiberglass that sort of seems to have peeled away, and there's a couple of 3 braces at this end to replace as well across the bit of the bilge to support that. But I do know this intimately now, every inch of its bottom, and it doesn't look too bad. As bottoms go, it looks pretty good. Get back to scraping. Last bit, last square foot. There's a slight change of plan since the last clip. I decided that I would go for fitting the thwarts or seats, because it's not going to be till next week that I can get the plank cut out for the gunnels. So give me something to do. I decided to do those instead, and I'll show you the process involved. This is what I did for the centre thwart. I'll show you this in a bit more detail now, of how you mark up and get ready to mark out and cut out the board. It's a piece of oak from a desk or something, this one, and I've got just enough oak to do the two seats, and the back here I've got enough to I can slat across the transom, and so that someone can sit on that as well. It looked like it may have had slats on in the first place, the way that it's been painted, so that won't be too much out of keeping with the rest of it, but I just don't have enough to do it in a solid piece, and it will look nice. So I'll move you up to the front end and show you how I've marked out the gauge to cut and fit that seat. Right, I've got a strip across the back, and then a support at the back of that on the bulkhead, and it's clamped on with those clamps, and then I've nailed a piece at each side, which I'm going to mark out the profile of the side of the boat. That little block of wood down there is what I've been doing it with, and I don't know, because I've never done anything like kitchen fitting, but I imagine this is how people scribe in worktops and cupboards backs against walls. I've never done anything like that before, so this is a bit of a new find for me, as how to do it. And you just go along and mark on the back end of the block as you press it up against the side, and mark it with a pencil, and then when you take it all off, put it on the board, and then using that block against the pencil line, you can then mark down onto the piece of work and then cut it out. And then it's going to be slightly oversized, which is no bad thing, because then you can plane it down to fit perfectly. I did try and just do a bit of measuring on that little batten at the back. I've ended up with it being about 1/4 of an inch or 6mm undersized, and that was by measuring and marking it out with the bevel gauges to get the angles. And unfortunately it's 1/4 of an inch too narrow, or too long, too short, but you can get around that. So this is the way to do it. You can see the pencil line there in the block, the gauge block. So I'll take this off now and lay it on the work and mark the scribe line across, and then cut it out with a jigsaw and then plane it up to fit. I say it's probably something that everyone else knows about, but I've never had to do that sort of thing before. So there's the front seat fitted. It's deeper than the centre thwart because of the foredeck that's got to go on, and I might round off the corners at this side of it just to give it a bit of a look. And there are some screw holes because this is recycled wood. There's some screw holes which I'm going to fill, but I'll probably do that maybe with something contrasting that will show up in the varnish to show that it is recycled rather than new wood. Although I think the colour of it is probably going to show that anyway. But I quite like the idea of recycling the wood. I've had it for a while, and it's gone to a good use, so I'm quite pleased with that. It's horrible just chucking away wood, especially oak and hardwoods. You can't really say it's a good use of wood to just use it as a bookcase or a desk for a while and then bin it. Then the boat's really recycled, isn't it? Well, today I've been stripping off the top part of the sides, the shear, I suppose it's called, and getting ready for this plank here. I'm going to cut it into strips tomorrow. Got some friends with a table saw. I'm going to cut that into strips, and then they're going to be the in wales and the out wales, and next job after that is to steam them and then fix them to the sides. But there's a lot of holes in here. I've counted up. What I hope to do is actually to nail this through with copper nails and roves, like in traditional clinker-built rowing boats, wooden boats, because they're not glued to the sides. They're actually just fixed by screws. In fact, must be well over 100 screws were fixing all this together before, because of all the repairs that were done to it. So I think I've got to go through and fill the screw holes, but instead of doing 30mm wide strips, I'm going to do them 40. So 20mm will be well below the level of all these screw holes that are already in it, to give it a nice strong base anchor point through the sides of the boat. So that's the next instalment. I think I'm going to finish this one here, as it's going to go on for too long and everyone will get bored. But it's coming on slow, so I'm enjoying doing it, and there's a lot of tedious work. I mean, I've been scraping this paint off again with a chisel, because in most places it's actually coming off quite easy, because I don't think it was even primed. I think it was just coated in something which is rather similar maybe to vinyl emulsion, and it's only stuck in a very few places. And once I've scraped off all the loose stuff that's going to come off, I'll go through with 80 grit on a sander to finally get rid of all the rough bits and give a key for the primer and the top coat. I went to a chandler's in Dover, the only one in Dover, surprising considering there's a rather large yachting marina and the sort of the industries that go along with that, boat repair and such like. I would have thought that there would maybe be more than the one marine chandler's, but it's a very, very nice, very old shop, been there for donkey's years. Nice, helpful people in there, and that's where I'm going to be doing most of my shopping. The nails, unfortunately, they don't sell, so I've got to get them online. There's about 100 I've got to order, and they're quite expensive really, because it's copper and it's to do with boats, so that adds a lot to the price probably, like with the bronze screws. But that's where we are at the moment, so hopefully you've enjoyed this episode, and then looking forward to the next one whenever that comes out. Depends on the progress really, but I shall still be filming all the different processes and putting them in update videos to come. So I'll see you all later. Thanks for watching. Cheerio.